2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. Okay, I hope everybody has their song sheet, starting with Hine Matov. All right. Hine Matov umanayim shebetachim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shebetachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanahayim shebetachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanahayim shebetachim gam yachad. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Hine matov umanahayim shebetachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanahayim shebetachim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum.
Thank you, Andy and Ruth, for that Hine Matov. We haven't done that one in a while, from Alana Arian, or Elena Arian. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom and welcome. And take a moment to go find someone you're not sure what their name is, or they look sort of familiar, you're not sure, and introduce yourself. Say hello. And remember to greet our new members in the back, our new TBO members. Welcome, everybody, and if you are unable to be here but are joining us from home, welcome and Shabbat Shalom to you too. Thank you again to Andy and Ruth for the beautiful music, for Matthew, who has no assistant with him tonight, but he is presidenting by himself back there, and Xavier, doing our technology. And thank you to all of you for being here for the second in our series of kind of outside the box creative services. And tonight I've built as a learner's service. If you find that you are really interested, as I am, in the history of, the meaning of a lot of our prayers, and I'm not able to go into depth about all the prayers, or we would absolutely be here for many hours, so I'm going to just I have a few things I'm going to bring up. But if you have interest in that, I invite you to come to our Overview of Judaism class that starts in January. I know that seems like a very long time away, but it's only a few months, and it's the second time through. There's been at least one person who's done the class. I've had a lot of the people from the first class say they want to do it again. And that's the kind of thing we talk about, is just talk about all this in depth, and everyone is welcome to join for that. So I want to start with mine has a cover, so you can't really tell, but this is the Mishkan, under the yellow cover is the Mishkan Tefillah that you all have either in your seat back or you have it on your lap right now. And what does that mean, and what is this? So there is Siddur, actually I might try over here. The word Siddur sounds a lot like a word that we use at Passover time. Siddur and Seder. Siddur and Seder. Why do they sound the same? Because they're the same word. They mean order. They mean order. So no matter what prayer book you're using, if you are going to a Reform, to a Reconstructionist, to an Orthodox service, if you're going in the United States, if you're going in Israel, if you're going in Italy, it does not matter where you go, all our Jewish prayer books have the same structure and the same order, the same general order. Now, the specific prayers we do sometimes changes. The Reform prayer book cuts out a lot of repetition, and I was just at a conservative morning service for my daughter's pre-wedding Ufruf in Massachusetts 2 weeks ago, and they have a major problem because it's a 3-hour service. I'm sorry, there's no place for that for any reason. Everybody comes an hour late, and everyone for the last hour goes and talks in the lobby. It's like, no, I don't get it. But we don't have that because we don't have to do Chetzi Kaddish literally 23 times. We just do it once. We do everything once, and it's short and sweet, and we can pay attention, and then we can go eat our cookies and talk. And so, rah, rah, Reform. But those of you who grew up Reform saw unless you're very young, you saw other prayer books. Like when I was a little girl, we had the little tiny black UPB, the little tiny Union prayer book. That was the Reform Movement's prayer book at the time. Had very little Hebrew. Then in the 70s, we switched to Gates of Prayer, the big blue volume. And then this Mishkan Tefillah came 10, 15, I don't know, now I lose track of time. 15 years ago, I don't know, something like that. And this is what most, not all, but most Reform synagogues around the country use this particular prayer book. What does it mean? Why do we call it Mishkan Tefillah? Why is that the name of our prayer book? So, Mishkan is a very specific word in the Torah. It means God tells everyone in the desert, build a beautiful, beautiful dwelling place so I can be with you wherever you go. Now, does God really need a little house? No, God does not need a little house. But what did it do for the people knowing that they didn't have to go travel somewhere really far away to be with God? What did it mean to them that they built a beautiful kind of box-like thing, and wherever they went, they could take it with them? What did that mean to them? It meant that God was with them everywhere they went, which was not in all ancient cultures, so it was really interesting. So that is a mishkan. A mishkan means it's like an idea, a symbol that God can be with you wherever you are in the world. So that's mishkan. And it's a mishkan for what? Mishkan tefillah means a mishkan for prayer. So the idea is that we have our prayers here in this little book, and we can take it wherever we go. These prayers are available to us wherever we go in the world. We can take it with us. So that's what that means, that we have Mishkan Tefillah, a special holy place where prayers live. So that's our Mishkan Tefillah. And we now are going to sing Shalom Aleichem, which is in your Siddur, in your Mishkan Tefillah, on page 142. And it's a special starting Shabbat song that welcomes the special Shabbat angels to be with us throughout the day of Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la la la. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeichem b'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la.
Candles is probably the shortest prayer, but this is my little longest explanation of the service. So we're going to front all the stuff's at the front, and then we're going to kind of whip through, because this is just way too interesting to me. So nowhere in the Torah does it say anything about lighting candles. Nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about lighting candles for Shabbat. That's not in there. There's no blessing or prayer for lighting candles. Why? Where did this come from, and why? Well, the answer to that is Jewish history, because for hundreds and hundreds of years, being Jewish meant you have a central temple in Jerusalem. There was one major temple in Jerusalem. There were priests who had special uniforms, I guess they were uniforms basically, that they had to wear. They were made of silver and gold and gems and just beautiful. And people would come who wanted to connect with God. They would bring things, maybe they were farmers and they would bring some of their grain, or maybe they had lambs and they would bring one of their lambs and they would bring it to the temple and give it to the priest, and the priest would sacrifice it and offer it to God. And that was kind of like their form of prayer. And 3 times a year on big Jewish holidays, Everybody would come from all over Israel and gather in Jerusalem, and it was like a giant celebration, and everyone would get to see people they hadn't seen in a while, and they'd have lots of food, and they'd have lots of celebrating, and that was what Judaism was for hundreds and hundreds of years. Then the year 70 came, and the Romans came in and destroyed what was the Second Temple, killed a lot of people, destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple. People had to leave. It's a very, very fascinating part of Jewish history. And there's no more temple. So there's no more priests. There's no more sacrifices. There's no more like coming together to Jerusalem. So what are your options? You're a Jew at this time. Temple's gone. Everything you knew that kind of brought Judaism together is gone. What are your options? What might you do? What might some people have thought and done if you're given that kind of situation? Okay, it's time to find a new religion. It's like, well, that's done. Absolutely. There were people like, well, okay, we can't do what we did anymore. There's no, like, this is over. So now we got to find something else. Absolutely, that happened. What might be another possibility that people might think? Pray. And then what? Well, pray, actually, Sandy, that's really interesting. Pray. And because this wasn't the first time this had happened. This had happened about 600 years earlier also with the first temple. 50 years later, however, due to my favorite person in Jewish history, King Cyrus, whom the people who in my class know, he's my guy. Due to King Cyrus of Persia, all the Jews could come back and they rebuilt it again. That was 50 years. So what do you think happened? So when Sandy, you said pray, in the year 70, it's destroyed. What do they think is maybe going to happen in 50 years? It's going to come back, absolutely. And that was in the Bible, too, because there were parts of the Bible that were written after this happened. And they're like, I'm going to send you, God is saying, I'm going to send you out from your city, but in, 50, 60 years, you're going to come back and rebuild. So they're like, okay, we'll just kind of hang in there, and then 50 years will go by, and then, we'll have it back again. Okay, we're just like in a holding pattern. Well, 50 years go by, 60 years go by. I mean, nothing's happening. Some people just were like, okay, we're definitely, went back to what Belle said, like, we're just done. This is not happening. There was a lot of interesting historical uprisings that happened at that time because they thought this is now going to happen, and it was a disaster. That's why we don't have we have a holiday for Hanukkah, because that's one of the few times we won. All the times the Jews tried to fight back and got just demolished. We don't have holidays for those times, so that was one of those times. Okay, so it's destroyed. Some people just said, forget it. Other people said, you know what, we're just going to do the best we can. Let's just keep following the stuff from the Bible as best we can, and we'll just do it locally, and we'll just do that. And so some people did that. But there were a group of people called the rabbis, and they said, we're not done. There's a core here of something that's so important. We're going to rework this, and we're going to make it modern, and we're going to find a way to be Jews without most of the stuff we've had for hundreds of years. We're just going to kind of remake it. And it took a while to convince people. I just had a workshop just within like a few weeks ago. I didn't realize how long it took. I thought, in my mind, the rabbis came along and said, oh, we're going to do Judaism like this now. And everyone's like, oh, cool, great. No, that is not what happened. Why did I even think that? People don't operate that way. People are like, who are you? Like, we're not listening to you. Like, who the heck are you telling us these things? That's what happened. It took a few hundred years for these rabbis to get enough people that would follow them and say, okay, I guess this is the way to do Judaism. So that's just a little bit of a fascinating part of Jewish history. I don't think anything has ever happened to this day as big in Judaism, ever, as that. That, people say, oh, this modern world, I don't know if we can have Judaism. It's like, okay, this is nothing. They had the temple destroyed. Like, that was something. This is nothing. So why do I say all that before the candles? Because during this time where the rabbis were like, hey, we're gonna push this Judaism where, God is really, and they based it on the Bible, but they said, look at the parts of the Bible where God is really loving and caring. We're gonna focus on that. We're gonna focus on joy. Judaism should be something that's joyful, and Shabbat should be this amazing day of joy and happiness and light. But guess what? There were more than one opinion among Jews. I know that's a shocker. I'm sure there were 10,000 opinions. But one opinion was, no, look at the Bible on Shabbat. Don't do this, don't do that, don't light fire, don't do this, don't do this. Shabbat should be a day of you just sit there in the dark and you're sad and you don't do anything and you should just be like just depressed all day, and that's what Shabbat would be. That's where the candles come from, because the rabbis are like, no, we really hate that idea. That's not at all what we want Shabbat to be. We think Shabbat should be a day of light and joy. So they brought in this idea that we are going to start Shabbat with lighting candles to show hope and light, and we're going to make sure the Shabbat day is one of joy and one that we are looking forward to all week and that we love. So that is the reason we have the Shabbat candles. That was brought to us by the rabbis who wanted us to know Shabbat is a day of happiness and light and hope. So we call up to bring us tonight this wonderful symbol of light and joy, the Levins, Anita and Denny, to come up to light the candles. And I have the blessings up here. You can also follow in your Siddur on page 120.
But first light it. First light it. First light it. Good job. No, I gotta do it again. Okay, good job.
Do you want it in Hebrew then English?
Hebrew, yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, God, source of all life, who brings us holiness through mitzvot, and who has given us the mitzvah of lighting the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Yasher Koach, thank you. And Baruch Hu on page 146 is really like the official start of our worship service, because what it means is it's time to bless God and godliness. And so our prayer begins, and like I used to do with my kids in Tefillah, it's the time where we say, like at a ball game, you sing the national anthem, as we sang things like Shalom Aleichem or Chadodi, and then we say, pray ball. And that's what we do now, Baruch Hu, page 146, and you may rise.
La 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due, now and forever. La 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 la, la 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 la, 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 la 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 la, la 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 la.
You may be seated, and anyone in religious school may come forward to help lead. On your song sheet is a song that's a modern interpretation of one of the prayers that comes after Baruch Hu, which is about what's happening outside in nature. And since this is an evening service, our prayer is always about how the light is kind of rolling and mixing into darkness. That's why we have this rolling. That's actually based directly on the Hebrew in the prayer. And this is very easy. Please follow along. You'll be able to do so very easily, and you guys know this very well. Roll into dark. Ma'ariv Aravim.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
That includes the Rosenauer moves in there. Thank you, everyone. That was great. We'll have something else for you later. I think you are aware of that. Shema on page 152 has been a centerpiece for hundreds of years. I have done workshops. I've taught about Shema. There's books on Shema. What I've never figured out is why, of every line in the Torah, why this one has just captured people. I mean, for hundreds and hundreds of years, this one 6-word sentence has really been so deeply meaningful to people. And I don't really have a good reason, but it just is. It's very, very powerful that, you know, pay attention, be attentive, Israel. Our God is one, our God is oneness. Somehow saying these words has made Jews for many, 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 many generations feel that closeness with God, whatever they might envision God to be. So we rise for Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Va'ed.
And you may be seated as we continue with Love Adonai, or And You Shall Love, which I believe is, I guess it's in the book.
It's on the song sheet.
It's on the song sheet, which I already lost. Wait, here it is.
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be upon your heart, shall be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a symbol between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorpost of your house, and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
When percussion comes out, it's Mi Chamocha time. Mi Chamocha also from Torah. Mi Chamocha, the words that were sung in joy by the Israelites who were heading out of slavery, heading out of Egypt to parts unknown. They were very, very happy, these Jews, for about half an hour. And then they got to the other side and they started immediately crying and complaining. But in that half an hour, they were just all Jews who were not complaining at all. It was a miracle. So we celebrate that by singing their joyful words, Mi Chamocha, and it is on page 158.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 ya la 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 la. La 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 ya la 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 la. La 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 ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehillah osef eleh, nora tehillah osef eleh. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
Page 162, you see two different possible songs we always do in the evening, V'shamru, which is on the top of the page, and you will see they are both about keeping Shabbat. The bottom one being about what a delight Shabbat is. Sure, so our early rabbis, who were the ones that were redefining, sometimes very radically so, Judaism, so it could be kept in a modern time when the temple wasn't around, and who instituted the candles to say, hey, Shabbat is a happy, hopeful day, not a somber day. They also included prayers in our service that emphasize that Shabbat is something we should be happy about, that we look forward to. So this is one of the songs that has to do with that theme, that you should keep Shabbat. It's a sign of the loving relationship between God and the Jewish people. We have some, come on up, we have some choreography, I guess that's the word. A little choreography, again, very simple. They will lead and you will follow. And most of you know it, but if not, you'll pick it up quickly. V'shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Good job. And I forgot to announce I'm wearing my pink kippah with the jewels in honor of opening weekend, the Barbie movie. Been looking forward to this for quite a while, so it's my Barbie kippah. Okay, now the part I've been nervous about. My Avot Ve'imahot magic trick. I am not a magician, just a reminder. I hope I don't mess this up. Okay, so this is my magic trick that goes with the Avot Ve'imahot. So, in the prayer, Avot Ve'imahot, you went down, good, okay. No one can be behind me because I'm such a professional.
Oh, I better move too.
No, you have to go down too, because
I have to move.
I'm so professional, everyone needs to be in front of me. Whatever, I'm not giving up my day job. Okay, so, in the prayer, Avot Ve'imahot, it says the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So Abraham is often thought of as the big, important member of this family. Jacob, being the next generation, thought of as kind of the not quite as important as Abraham. And then Isaac, thought of sort of as the weak link. However, I think when we read in the prayer that the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, one thing we're supposed to learn from this is that really we shouldn't look at it that way. The fact that God had a relationship with each one of them means we really need to look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as all equally important, all according to the Jewish value of B'Tselem Elohim, that everyone is created in the image of God. Each one of the patriarchs, no matter how much or how little time they get in the Torah, is exactly equally as important as the other. That really, it's not so much that Abraham is so important and Isaac is really not, but they're all very much equally important, whether we're talking about what Abraham did, whether we're talking about what Jacob, I can't really multitask, Jacob and Isaac, whether we're talking about, whatever. So another thing we have to remember is even though you know, Abraham was much more visible. He talked to God a lot more. If we're looking at the grandchild, Isaac really said very little in the Torah. We have to remember that in Judaism, we have an idea called from generation to generation, lador vador, and that everybody is really equally as important as everybody else, that they're all really the same, because when they're all together as generations, if you are missing one, the whole thing falls apart. So they're all always very equal. So I think one thing we learn from Avot V'Imahot, this prayer, is that, you know, if we don't live with the idea of B'Tselem Elohim, of everybody being created in the image of God, as we should, then we are going to see people in this way, where Abraham and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, whatever, I had them in the wrong order, that's fine, are going to be seen as very, very different levels of importance. The end. That wasn't too bad. Okay. Good, good. Molly liked it. Okay, so now on that note of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are going to read, or chant rather, Avot V'Imahot, which is the beginning of the section called Tefillah on page 164. And you may rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Kanei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livanei V'Neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim, Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar. Bichamocha Bal Givurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukadoshim b'chol yom yahalucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue with a moment of silent reflection, either with the words of our hearts or in our siddur. We continue either standing or sitting.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו
Mishaberach is a prayer for, Mishaberach means the one who blessed. So that's what that means. It's just the very beginning of a sentence. So you can have a Mishaberach for different occasions. We only do the Mishaberach for healing, but that's not the only Mishaberach. You could do a Mishaberach for a bar or bat mitzvah, for a happy occasion. There's different blessings for people. But this Mishaberach that we do is always the one for those who are in need of physical healing, in need of spiritual, emotional healing. I did a workshop once on different Mishaberach prayers over time, and for many years, leading up to the modern era, Mishaberach would include giving tzedakah. It was like, God, I will give this much money to tzedakah or to the temple, and in return, I hope you will heal so-and-so. And that was the traditional Mishaberach, which I thought was really interesting. It was definitely like, hey, I'll do this, and then you heal my friend, or you heal my family member. So that didn't really mesh well with a modern mindset of like, I'll do this if you do that, and we don't include that anymore. It's simply a prayer saying, please, we would like to see these people be healed. Does Mishaberach work? Depends on what you think the purpose of Mishaberach is. It depends on a lot of things. But we do know when people feel supported that part of healing is emotional and spiritual, even if it's a medical issue. As a hospital chaplain for 10 years, which I was going back a few years, and keeping up with the literature, I know that medicine alone doesn't explain a lot of the time how someone comes to healing, that there are other factors, and one of those factors is feeling supported, having a community of friends, having a religious community. All of those things, in addition to doctors and medicines, are legitimately part of what it means to heal. So on this Shabbat, we think of especially these friends, members of our community, David Appel, Roberta Arns, Carolyn Bouchard, Ethan Campbell, Yankel Ben-Hana, Nicole Dubin, Daniel Urchik, Mordechai Ben Sarafega, Shar Friedman, Roy Zabat Shmuel Vabat Sheva, Tracy Janetta, Julian Kaner, Ellen Kaplan, Erwin Kostrinsky, Marion Kostrinsky, Shelley Lehner, Mark Merberg, Arnold Reamer, Sheila Rosenberg, Rosalie Saltiel, Louise Samuels, Maxine Shapiro, Bobby Sherman-Gieshin, Herman Spring, Andrea Teeple, Carla Teisch, Katie Weinstock, Lori Weinstock, Bat Sheva. Are there others we wish to think of? we join in Misha Berach, which is on your song sheet.
Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, veLeah, Hu yevarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. Mi sheberach avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, veLeah, Hu yevarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. Elna refana la, Elna refana la, Elna refana la, Elna refana la. Mi sheberach avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, veLeah, Hu yevarech v'yirapeh et hacholim.
That's a great instrument. That's healing. I would like to call up Doreen Klein, our duty trustee for the evening, to tell us a few things happening at TBO.
Okay, everybody. This was an unusual but fun service tonight. I learned a lot, and I hope that all you guys did so too. Thank you, Rabbi, Andy, Ruth, Xavier, for making this all happen tonight. Now, TBO is filled with many surprises when you least expect it. Tonight's service was not quite expected to be like this.
Well,
Saturday morning
if you read
is-
your emails, then it was.
Yeah, but we didn't know quite what to expect. Saturday morning is Torah study. It is filled with surprises on every page. Join the group on Zoom at 9 o'clock, and you might be surprised with some of the things that you read. Monday is Sisterhood Marjan. We were pleasantly surprised a few weeks ago when Dara Rosenau had actually joined us. Hopefully she realized that our age was just a number that many of us want to forget, but you fit right in. It was great. See, she was surprised that we weren't old fuddy-duddies. Monday evening is choir practice. Surprise yourself and join us. You might have a better voice than you thought you did. Tuesday is Tanakh. Talk about surprises. We have studied people from the Bible that, boy, we never thought about them in that way. We're now studying Daniel, and there are a lot of strange things about him. You really should come on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. That would be another surprise for you. Wednesday's Canasta. Heather Arnold, if you're watching, actually surprised us by coming a second time. And she actually liked us, so that was a surprise. Thursday is bingo, and surprises await those who volunteer as well as those who play. You never know what to expect on bingo night. ECC summer camp is filled with surprises. Today was Bubble Day. The kids were having a ball, and there are actually some adults who went into the bubble. Did you go into the bubbles?
I did, but there was colored powder, and I was afraid I was going to stain that. But I did. I put my toes in.
Eileen does a great job. If you've never seen the ECC in action, you will be surprised. Our new and improved religious school is planning many surprises for the year. If you haven't registered your child yet, do so. Don't miss out. Our director, Phyllis Laksky, has some amazing ideas. Renew your membership for a year filled with many surprises. Sisterhood has things, Brotherhood, Fabulous 50s, our youth group, Kesha, confirmation, holiday events, social action projects, adult learning opportunities, surprise speakers, and the list goes on and on. This year will be the best. Be part of it, and you will be pleasantly surprised how nice coming to TBO can really be.
Wow. I am impressed that you had a theme for your announcements.
Well, just like tonight, I didn't know what to expect. It was going to be a surprise.
I know, it's impressive. So going with Doreen's theme that she has woven so artistically through our announcements, I will also announce major surprise next week, because I have entitled next week's Choose Your Own Service Adventure, you know, like those books where you choose your own adventure. But you're gonna need your smartphones, because you're gonna be making decisions about how our service, just like the Choose Your Own Adventure books, you're gonna choose your own service adventure, and you're gonna be voting about different decisions that we do during the service. So come to that. Bring whoever you want, have a smartphone, and actually even those of you who are unable to come to the temple but are at home, you can participate too. The smartphone doesn't know where you are. Well, it does know where you are, but it also works from anywhere, so that'll be something I have not done before and just sounded kind of fun and creative. We continue with Aleinu. And before I call up Ann and Dolores, I want to point out a little bit of the body movements that we do during Aleinu. So first of all, I want to point out when we face east, we're not bowing to the Torah scrolls, because often it appears like we're bowing to the Torah, which would be a little odd. But we're kind of bowing symbolically to God, and you know, for hundreds and hundreds of years, so remember when we left off back in the year 70, the temple was destroyed and everyone was kicked out. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before Jews could really come back in any number to be freely Jewish in a Jewish state. And of course, we know that was just like 75 years ago. So for many, many, many years, Jews were trying to look for a hopeful time where we would no longer be oppressed, we would no longer be in danger for our lives by just being Jews. And so the place our people always thought of as that being was Jerusalem. So actually what we're doing is we're facing east. Now, I'm very aware that if you look at a globe, Jerusalem isn't due east of, or maybe it is in Florida, I don't know. I don't think it's due east of here. But it's just symbolically facing east, facing toward Jerusalem, a place that we always thought of as meaning hope, meaning being free to be Jewish. So there are some rabbis now who don't do that anymore, because they say we can be free to be Jewish here and we don't have to face that way. It is TBO's custom to face east, and that is what we're doing when we face in that direction. We're not bowing to Torah scrolls. We're bowing toward our place that our people yearned for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So we're tying ourselves to them, to the dreams of previous generations. I also want to point out, like, people know there's like this sort of thing. Okay, so this is how you do it. Wait, Aleinu, sorry, I got to sing through the whole song. Va'anachnu, okay. Va'anachnu, anachnu means we. So we don't do anything for we, because that's just we, anachnu. Korim means to bend. Va'anachnu korim. Umishtachavim means to bow. So literally what we're saying is we bend and bow. So we're just basically acting out the words we're saying. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim. Usually at Lifnei Melech, you kind of just stand up again. So was that, Belle, I know you grew up in a more traditional, that's basically, yeah. So that's what that is. We're just acting out the words and what they mean. So now I will call up Ann Levinson and Dolores Champiner to open our ark for Aleinu. Aleinu is on page 586, and if you're able, you may rise.
586. 586. I'll keep bringing you down. You got it. I'll help you up too.
Start.
Okay.
And there's a metal rod back there somewhere. I know, it's somewhere.
עלינו לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
And here's yours back. Yasher Koach, thank you. You may be seated. The Kaddish is, I think, the only prayer in our service that is in Aramaic. It's not in Hebrew. Obviously, the lettering is the same, but Aramaic was kind of like the Yiddish of 1,500 years ago. You know, like that's what the Jews weren't speaking Hebrew to each other. They were speaking Aramaic to each other, just like the Jews of Eastern Europe spoke in Yiddish. So this is a prayer. It's interesting that this is the only prayer that was written in the actual language that the people were speaking. So what that tells me is that this was, which makes so much sense, a very personal prayer that people wanted to say in their own language. It is a prayer that is really just a poem. It doesn't really have content. It's just many words that sound really nice together. That means God is praised, God is blessed, God is good. It's really just praises. No mention of death, nothing about death whatsoever. And we can have a whole discussion about why that is, but perhaps, that's what we need to hold on to when we are faced with loss and grief, is the idea and the hope that life ultimately is good, that life is worthwhile, that we live in a world that is mainly at its core a good world. So before we join together in Kaddish, we especially remember during her time of Shiva, Judith Levine, sister of Denny Levin. During their time of Shloshim, Arthur Chaikin, longtime member, husband of Gail Chaikin, Arthur Longo, brother of Louise Samuels, and Michael Polonsky, cousin of Larissa Polonsky. And those whose yahrzeits fall this week: Francis Backer, Rudy Kotler, Rose Conrad, Sophia Coyne, Alan Fogelman, Francis A. Foreman, Manny Gloger, Gertrude Guest, Sylvia Grand, Hilda Holzinger, Chester Irvin, Susan Milberg-Lasky, Samuel Levine, Margie Kirsch, Rose Kirschbaum, Frida Kostrinsky, Murray A. Levine, Ethel Manukin, Maurice Richter, Sandra Rostowski, Mildred Silkowitz, Goldie Stonehill, Edward Weiner, Are there others we wish to remember on this Shabbat? We honor all of their memories as we join in Mourner's Kaddish, which is on page 598. You may rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divarach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'gala uvizman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha berechu. La'ela min kol berachata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. V'yimru, v'yimru, v'yimru. Amen. V'yimru, v'yimru, v'yimru. Amen. You may be seated. We move from our sacred prayer of memory to the joy of Shabbat, again, as this theme keeps coming up of Shabbat being a day of joy, and we're always joyful when the Myers family leads us in Kiddush. Do you want friends up with you too? No. Yeah. More the merrier, as they say. Oh, that scared me. Kiddush is on page 123. I'll take my magic rope off of your table. And here you go, Bradley. I guess Olivia can share that with you if you want. Just there's a step stool incoming. Watch out. Step stool, step stool, step stool, step stool, step stool. Okay, there you go. Page 123.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Berei pari hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila, l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ba'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Okay, what's next? Ta-da! Okay, kids, which are you going to do? Just the plain or the Hamotei Lechem? Which do you want to do?
Just gonna do the song.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together. As our prayer is joyfully said, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Amen.
Okay, B'tei Avon. Let's see. No one wants any challah?
Yeah.
Is it softer this time?
Yes.
Good. No teeth will be broken in the consumption of this challah? Great, we love that. Okay, so before we all head back and have our own egg back there, we're going to finish up with Adon Olam, a classic. Thank you, Bradley. Adon Olam is on page 625, and this is a repeating one, so let's hear you all. Adon Olam.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malam,
Asher Malam.
B'terem
B'terem
kol,
kol.
Yetzer Nivrach Le'ed Nasa,
Le'ed Nasa.
V'chesed kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'acharei Kivlot HaKol, Levado Yomlot Nora,
Adon Olam.
Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Hove, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara,
Adon Olam.
Ve'hu Echad, Ve'ein Sheni, Lehamshilo Lehachbira,
That's good.
Beli Reishit, Beli Tachlit, Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'hamishra,
Adon Olam.
Ve'hu Eli, Ve'chaim Goali, Ve'tzumchem Li Be'in Tzara,
Adon Olam.
Ve'hu Nisi, Umanos Li, Menach Koshi Be'yom Ekra,
Adon Olam.
Be'yahado, Afkin Ruchi, Be'et Tishan Ve'ahira,
Adon Olam.
Ve'im Ruchi, Gaviati, Adonai Li Ve'lo Ira, Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam. Asher Malam.
B'terem kol, Yetzer Nivrach Le'ed Nasa,
Le'ed Nasa.
V'chesed kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Adon Olam. Shabbat Shalom.